We got one of the military guys in today, everybody. So these military guys, you got to say the right thing. If you say the wrong thing, they get all out of whack. So, this is what we're not saying today. We're not going to say this will defend. It's the Army. We're not going to say duty, honor, country, also the Army. Not going to say aim high, fly, fight, win. We're definitely not going to say that. We're not going to say non-CB said Petralia, not self, but country. That's the Navy. Semper Supra, we're getting closer. Space Force. Semper Paratus, always ready. We're not going to say roll tide. Semper Fi?
Semper Fi, you got it.
Financial confidence for your hip pocket.
Money is really just energy.
Thanks for checking out It's All Money. Welcome inside the Sonoma Wealth Conference Room. Sonoma Wealth Advisors, just off the Sonoma Square. My name is Gaetano Weir, Marketing Director for Sonoma Wealth Advisors. This is our show, It's All Money, where life and finance meet, where they intersect, and the pieces of your life that end up part of your financial story. Today is an episode I'm really excited about. One of our advisors here at the firm has a unique story about how his background in the military influences his work today with his own life and his family and with you, our clients. So please welcome to the show, former captain of the Marine Corps, Gaetano Bettinelli.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Gaetano, why don't you tell everybody, if they're not one of your clients or if they're not work with you yet, what do you do for the firm?
I'm a financial advisor here at the firm, part of the team that helps people organize their finances, streamline their finances, and gets the most bang for their buck in their financial lives to ultimately get them towards reach their financial goals.
So your uniform now is professional attire with suit and a tie.
That's right.
We're a little bit more casual today.
That's right. I joke with my wife all the time that if I could, I would replace my old camouflage, because it's all the same color. So you just wake up in the morning and you put it on. That I would just buy 10 white shirts and 10 gray pants to replicate the uniform. But
That's nice.
I haven't got permission to do that yet.
So we mentioned you were in the Marine Corps for many years.
Yes.
So let's start. You're a Napa native. Your family there for a long time. How do you go from Napa to the Marine Corps?
Good question. Long geographical journey. That's relatively short. So my grandfather was in World War II. My father was in the Army. My father was in Vietnam in the Marine Corps. And I just always grew up just kind of appreciating that and, how those folks paved the way for us and, the foundation of the country that we have now. And so it was always really important for me to pay that forward. So when it became time as I was thinking about, as I became of an age, where I was thinking more and more about my future, I always knew that the military was in it. And it's just part of how I was wired to as a human. So those two collided. And I ultimately, when I was in middle school, was
Shout out to middle school. What was your middle school?
Robert Louis Stevenson
I
Middle
thought it
School
would've been
in
that
St.
one.
Helena High.
RLS.
The Blue Devils. I read this book by Coach Krzyzewski, Mike Krzyzewski of Duke, and he went to West Point. And so I was so enamored with the book that I decided, I said, hey, whatever that guy did to form his leadership opinions and his skill sets, I think that's a roadmap that I'd like to emulate, which ultimately led me to the service academies. And ultimately came down to senior year. I decided to go to Annapolis instead of West Point. And that's what started my military journey.
I'm going to go back 1 second. So you said your grandfather served in World War II. What branch?
He was in the Army.
And then your father was, did you say Army and Marines or?
My father was in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
He was a helicopter pilot.
I see. Okay. I want to make sure I clarify that. Okay. So you make the decision to go to Annapolis. Today's episode is what the Marines taught me about finance. By me, I mean him. And in working with you here at the firm, it's not something you necessarily lead with. You're not constantly, well, when I was, you're not telling
Yeah.
me about things like that. And yet I can feel it kind of in your character, and you can sort of feel the leadership lessons coming out. And so, in fact, Gaetano was a little hesitant. He was like, I don't know if anybody wants to hear about my time and I was like, no, man, I think these are some good stories. So
Yeah.
today's
Yeah.
episode, what the Marines taught Gaetano about finance and what might be useful to you as a client or potential client of Sonoma Wealth Advisors. So take me to Annapolis. Let's start there.
Yeah.
What are some things you learned in Annapolis?
Well, it's really interesting the journey that they take you on that you go on through school.
And Annapolis is what? I mean, that's a name that's used, but that is
Yep.
what is the name of the specific academy?
Correct. So the technical name for the school is the United States Naval Academy.
Okay.
So each service has an academy, right? There's an Air Force Academy. There's a military academy, which is West Point. There's a Naval Academy. There's a Coast Guard Academy. There's a Merchant Marine Academy. Um, Not a Space Force Academy yet, but that falls under a subsection of the Air Force Academy.
We got to get back to the moon first.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the United States Naval Academy, but it's in Annapolis, Maryland. So it's commonly referred to as Annapolis.
Yeah.
And it's just such a unique experience that's tough to encapsulate. But I think for the audience, the best way to think about it is imagine that when you show up to your freshman dorm, right, and you have your floor of 40 people there. Now freeze that group of 40 people and go through all 4 years of college living on that same floor with them, all 4 years of college going to the same classes, eating with just those people at the same table every meal, working out with them, and doing your summer internship with them. And oh, by the way, at the end of that, you're all going in the same industry, right? So it's a really intense, compact experience that's quite streamlined, but just there's an amazing depth of relationships there because you have so many touch points with those people.
And just to clarify too, sorry, I want to get all these details right
Yep.
for people who might be confused. It's the Naval Academy, but Marines go to the Naval Academy because of their special relationship there.
Correct. Yes. So the Marines, if you look at the organizational chart of the military, the Marines fall under the Department of the Navy for funding. So what that means is that when Annapolis graduates approximately 1,100 people per year, a portion of that is siphoned off into the Marine Corps, and the rest go into the Navy. The various jobs in the Navy, right? Flying ships, submarines,
Right.
whatever that may be for those individuals.
Okay, so you've got this floor. You're seeing these same people all the time. How is that finance for you today?
How is that finance for me today?
Because whoop-de-doo, dude, we all went to college. Well, maybe not all of us, but many people went to college.
Yeah, good question. So you go through this journey with these folks, and one of the things that's so unique about it is that everything is a competition, but it's a healthy competition, right? So at any moment, where you stand in your class rankings. And ultimately, where that leads you is, come senior year, they have to divide you up and people have their preferences of where they go. And you compete based off class rank for where you go. And so as a result of that, there's all these metrics that you can see, right? So in your class of 1,100 people, if you're number one athletically or 1100th athletically. Same with academically, same with leadership, right? So it's a really intense experience where there's a lot of like-minded individuals that are really like sharpening iron, and really trying to prove each other. Some people take that competition in an unhealthy way, but the majority of the people use that as in a healthy way to just really ultimately, improve themselves. So when I think about that in the world of finance, where my mind goes to is, you got to have metrics that you're looking at, right? Like, what does winning look like? What does losing look like? Am I ahead of pace? Am I behind pace? To ultimately reach my goals. So, um, you know, most colleges, whether it be San Luis Obispo or Sonoma State, you're doing your thing and it's hard to tell if you're on track or off track. Um, but everything's a competition, right? So there's a saying that says, if it gets measured, it gets improved, right?
Ooh.
It's a way where you can kind of constantly measure yourself and your self-improvement.
Yeah, and
So
wherever you're at in your financial journey, it's very easy to just sort of either forget about your money or think,
mhm,
especially for someone who's just starting or is, feels like they're never going to make it.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to focus that. That's not me.
Yeah.
And so if what gets measured gets improved, that's such a good phrase. Focusing on it, deciding what can I do realistically, and then hitting those goals,
Mhm,
writing that down,
mhm.
that type of thing. That's what you're talking about.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Right, so I know that if upon graduation, if I wanna get this highly selective spot, right, these are the metrics that I
Yeah.
probably should be looking to hit on track or off track for
Yeah.
that. And I also think it really speaks to the power, the whole experience, right? I don't know anybody who has gone through that experience and, not questioned whether this was the right path for them, right? At some point saying, "Hey, do I quit? Do I just go to my local state school, whatever?" Um, but really what keeps you there is like the vision, like the vision of what you want to do in the future, right? And kind of constantly reminding yourself about like why you signed up, the purpose for why you signed up, what you're going for. And really, I think that transcends like, a military goal and goes into finance goal too, right? Like there's going to be hiccups in the road. There's going to be times when you need to pay the price to win,
Hmm.
right? But as long as you keep that like big picture vision and remind yourself of the why that you're there, those little bumps, feel less and less,
That's what Bitcoin
right?
owners are feeling right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Why am I in this asset? No, I believe in it. I do
Yeah.
believe in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's right. That's right.
Tell me about the leadership laboratory.
Yeah. So the school in general, right, is designed to develop leaders for the military, right? And they do that in a pretty unique way, where they don't sit you down and say, this is what you're learning, but you're learning it all along without knowing. And so when you're a freshman year, there's all kinds of rules and regulations that you need to follow. And a lot of them are quite silly, to be honest with you. Things like, when you turn, you have to do a 90-degree turn and you have to, chop with high knees, and there's walkways you're allowed to go down and walkways you're not allowed to go down. So there's all kind of silly rules that you have to follow as a freshman. As a junior, you're responsible for mentoring the freshmen, right? Being a friend that's a good influence on them, right? And teaching them to do things the right way. As a junior, your job is to train the freshmen. And so you're not their friends. You're their firm accountability on what they should be doing, right? And then senior year, your job is to supervise the juniors who
Mm,
are implementing the training for the freshmen,
right.
right? So this whole dynamic that you walk through is like, hey, you're learning how to first and foremost lead yourself, then you're learning how to mentor, then you're learning how to train, then you're learning how to supervise, right? And they don't break it down into those clear terms, but um, that whole foundation falls apart unless you're able to lead yourself, right? As a freshman. So sometimes you're a freshman, you say, hey, this is silly. Why am I doing all this stuff? Well, you're developing discipline, you're developing accountability, all of these things that are foundational for your success in the military. You aren't going to be a good leader or a supervisor or a mentor unless you're doing the little things right yourself. So let's take a year and focus on doing the little things right
Right.
yourself, right? Um, and I think that's a lot about like what finances is too, right? Like you have such a big influence in your financial future, right? There's people that can come alongside and help you and point you in the right direction, which is
There
why
are.
we have
There are.
jobs, right? But ultimately, like the work, the heavy lifting of like the foundation of what that looks like,
Mhm.
right? It is there's a lot that you can control in that.
A great
right? You're the
example.
master of your ship.
A great example, and no one ever wants to do it. And certainly, if you've done well, maybe you don't have to do it, or maybe you're the exact one that you should be doing it. Is a budget. Nobody wants to do a budget. No one. No one.
That's
Even
right.
if the numbers are large on there, right? You're like,
That's
like
right.
nobody wants to sit and do that. It just
That's right.
feels silly.
That's right.
And yet, study after study, time after time, like a written budget
That's right.
is such a key to financial success.
That's right.
And if you can commit and actually do it, it can be transformational.
Yes, 100%. That's a perfect example right there. Another thing that I learned at school was the importance of accountability, right? So just to use probably an overly used example, but you hear a lot of in the media of like Navy SEALs, right? So in one of the options that you can become as a Navy SEAL, you select in a Navy SEALs.
You mean when you hear in the media, like they have podcasts and books and stuff like the well-known Special Forces unit.
Yep,
Okay,
that's
okay,
right.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
that's better said. Um, and so there's a lot of literature out there that says you take 10 people from from a non-Annapolis college,
Yeah.
right? Um, from a non-military college, put them in a buds class. One's going to make it.
Right.
If you put 10 in there, one's going to make it. If you put 10 Annapolis graduates in a buds class, 9 are going to make it.
Right.
90% success rate. And the question is like, why, right? Like, why is that, right? It's nothing. It's not that, there's nothing special in the water there, right? They don't feed you special food. There's nothing like that. All it is accountability, right? And so those guys, they pair up with someone freshman year and say, hey, my buddies who followed that path said, hey, if I'm not here at 5 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, come to my door, wake me up, throw water in my face, do whatever you got to do to wake me up because we're going swimming Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Right. So you got to surround yourself with people who share the vision of your dream and who will encourage you along that way and keep you accountable on that path to keep going down that path.
And that's true in finance as well, right? I mean, that's the
100%.
people around you contribute to the environment that you're creating with your wealth.
100%. 100%.
As an advisor, have you seen, people you've interacted with who have bad influences in their life, who could be doing better if they had different people around them?
Yeah, 100%. Right. It's like, hey, I'm overspending and eating. It's like, okay, great. Is your friend group? What do you do with your friend groups? Right? Is your friend group going out to eat, or do you ever invite them over for a barbecue? Right. I don't know. That might be a little harsh. We might have to edit that out. But
when did you get into Marine leadership training? Was that at Annapolis or was that somewhere else?
Good question. So leading up to the summer between leading up to your senior year, they expose you to various military options that you can do post graduation. And then when you come back senior year, they ask you to submit your preferences. There are 22 of them at the time that I went through, and you list number 1 through 22. So I wanted to go Marine Corps ground. That was the right path for me for lots of reasons that are outside the scope of this conversation.
Marine Corps ground. What does
Marine
that mean?
Corps ground.
What does that mean?
So you are a Marine that's on the ground. Marines try to keep it really simple for their people, just to make sure that they're really connecting the dots with those things.
Can I stop you right now?
Yeah.
Can you describe to someone who's not familiar with the various branches of the services, what makes the Marine Corps different? Because the Marine Corps is different.
The Marine Corps is different.
And the other branches all say it. So
yeah.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, right. So you mean from like a military tactics standpoint,
I
or
mean,
do you mean
just
from like
describe a Marine?
Stereotypically, like a Marine will have great enthusiasm, usually good physical prowess, usually can have a tendency to overcome problems with just sheer willpower instead of thinking about the smartest way to
That's
do it.
what I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of, but they attack. I would just, my interactions with Marines is that they attack problems maybe you could say in a different manner.
Yes.
Than someone in the Air Force or someone in,
occasionally
Coast
with
Guard.
disproportionate, enthusiasm and vigor.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, I got you off track.
So
Sorry.
there's Marine ground and there's Marine air, right? There's Marines that work on the ground and then there's Marines that fly. and are associated with flying. So I went Marine ground, which then led me to follow-on training. Again, keeping it very simple for their audience. They went to learn the basics at the basic school.
Makes sense.
So the basic school, you know, teaches you the basics about being a Marine. It's the Marine Corps'. This is for Marine Corps officers. It's the Marine Corps' vehicle to teach their version of leadership through the classroom of infantry training. So there's a lot of field operations. There's a lot of time spent in the woods. There's a lot of time spent, learning admin that you need to do to be an officer and things like this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties into finance how?
Good question. So at the basic school, right, that there's kind of two phrases that everything kind of comes back to, right, which they always hammer, like brilliance in the basics, brilliance in the basics, brilliance in the basics, right? So there's so many things that can go wrong on a battlefield that you don't have, unless you are taking care of like the basic things, right, and doing like the blocking and tackling correct, you're never going to get to the advanced fun, like fun tricky things, right? So they do a great job of just kind of hammering the basics and teaching it in a crawl, walk, run standpoint. So what that might look like is like, hey, if you're learning how to do a patrol, right? So you do learn all these military things, and you're learning how to do a patrol. Well, we're going to go to the classroom and we're going to talk about patrolling tactics, and then we're going to go to like a football field and we're going to literally walk a patrol, super quick. And then we're going to do a patrol with 4 people called a fire team. Once we learn how to do it with 4 people, we're going to learn to do it with a squad, which is 12 people, 3 fire teams. Once we learn how to do it with a squad, we're going to do it with a platoon, about 40 people, right? So you take these things and you build on each other. You start slow and you build up your competency in all these various military tenets. And by doing so, you have a firm foundation before you got to try to get tricky. So, sometimes we see people come into our office who are, inexperienced investors, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We always lead with education to bring those people along, but they say, "Hey, I want to talk about Bitcoin." It's like,
I want to short something.
yeah, yeah. What? Let's talk about options. Let's talk about shorting. And it's like, okay, like we can have that conversation, right? But let's build out the foundation first before we get there, so that we know that the house is on. Like when we go vertical construction, it's a solid foundation.
Makes sense. You graduate from Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
You finish the basic school.
Mm-hmm.
And give me the year. What year is this? 2000.
So I graduated in May of 2009. Graduated from the basic school in January 2010.
Okay. So 2010, and you are deployed.
One intermediate step in there. After the basic school, you get assigned your MOS, military occupational specialty, which is like your sub specialty, your job in the Marines. I got assigned to be a logistics officer in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. So I had a couple months of specialty logistics training, associated with that before I got to Camp Lejeune, and then ultimately went right into a deployment workup.
Okay. And so just so people can understand, because you did say the word battlefield earlier, describe what some of your, time when you're deployed is like as a logistics officer.
Yeah. Good question.
I think something I learned when I started really learning about the military is just in your mind, if you don't think much about it, you just think it's holding the flag and charging the hill. Like, I think that's, everything's guns in the military, and they certainly do have some guns, but there's a whole operation that helps make some of that happen. So describe what logistics does.
So what that looked like for us is like logistics, looked far from the movie experience of, Saving Private Ryan. And so my specific experience is we were on Camp Leatherneck. It was in 2000, we deployed in 2000, early 2011. It was a time where Obama had ordered a troop surge into Afghanistan, thinking, hey, let's kind of get ahead of the power curve here so that therefore we can dial back. So I was at Camp Leatherneck, which was the big Marine base in the Marines' area of responsibility for Afghanistan, right? Army had theirs, et cetera. The whole country was divided up. And so the Marine base that we were on, Camp Leatherneck, had thousands of people on it. Thousands of people, many square miles. I don't know the exact number, but we were, as the logistics unit, think about a spider web. So that was at the center of the Marines area, and then it would spider web out, and there would be outposts further out, and then be outposts further out after that. And so we were responsible for living on this big Marine Corps base and running logistics convoys from that big base to the outer edges of the spider web and dropping off everything that people needed for logistics
Supplies and stuff like that.
That's right. The whole gamut of it. So you think about, if you think about because Afghanistan, there's a lot of sand, so we'll use that as an example, right? If you think of a patch of sand, you say, what do I need to do to set this place up? I need tents for people to sleep in. I need food. I need water. I need I need electricity, so therefore I need a generator. If I have a generator, I need gas. Generators break, so I need repair parts. I need a mechanic who knows how to fix the generator. Oh, by the way, that's me just living. Now there's an active enemy that's trying to prevent me from doing my job. So I need to think about how do I create defensive structures? Do I have bullets, right? Do I have rockets? Do I have radios?
Bullets.
Yeah, don't forget your bullets in Afghanistan.
Grenades. Hey, Mike.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have any?
Yeah, exactly. That's a bad day if you run out of those.
That's right.
So we were responsible for making sure that, in clear coordination and communication with those outlying units, we would be at the big base and we would, drop off what they needed. It's all just about hey, there's some place we want to go and something that we want to do in the future. There's a lot of moving parts between here and there. How do we organize it systematically, step by step, so that we're constantly incrementally moving towards that future vision, right? And it's easy to get lost in all the details, but if you just break it down segment by segment, in that military example, hey, I have to live. What do I need to live? Tents, cots, food, water, toilet paper. Cool. All right. Let's tackle that first. We got to have that before we do military things. What do you do military things? Defensive positions, guard towers, vehicles to go where we need to go on the battlefield. So a financial plan, there's a lot of moving parts, but you break it down into a subcategories, and it's a journey to get there, but you just systematically.
This is my portfolio. Here's what I need to live. What do I need to live? I need a roof over my head. I need to pay utilities. I got to pay so-and-so's tuition. So looking at the portfolio I have, how do I position that in various assets and allocations to sort of make sure that can funnel all of this, right?
Yes.
Organization, a plan.
Yeah, exactly. And even the bigger picture before you even start shipping the tents and start staging the fuel and all that, it's well, what do we want this base to do? Right? Do we want this base to be in the city so that it can, work with the local populace? Do we want to occupy a space of land that says, hey, we want this road. We want to make sure that this road is clear for civilian traffic. So it's in the military, where you place the base matters. And in finance, what the vision is matters too, right?
We're wrapping up the episode here.
Wrapping it up.
As we go, I want to ask you one more thing, which is there's a lot of preconceived notions when it comes to the military, the Marines specifically, people who are in the military. You've spent thousands of hours, years of your life in it.
Mm-hmm.
You are also from Napa. You're from this area. What do you think people get wrong about the military and the people who are in it?
Good question.
What are the people like, really? Soldiers, Marines?
They're normal people. They're normal people. They're normal people who have, they aren't robots. They have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. They have their vulnerabilities, their confidences, their inconfidences, their there's things where they're confident in, there's things that they lack confidence in. But really it's just a section of a cross section of the United States, that has come together and kind of set aside their personal ambitions for 4 years, for a greater purpose. So I think it's easy to say like, oh, that person was a wrestler, or, all of the people that the person that I knew that went in the Marine Corps was like this complete meathead, or, something like this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different flavors. There's a lot of different types, but the commonality is saying, hey, I'm putting, kind of my life on pause or my personal ambitions on pause for, a couple of years, I kind of serve this greater purpose.
Did you get out of it what you hoped you would?
I'd say more. I'd say more. I think it started with purpose, um, and the desire to give back, and what I found in that, in doing that, I had amazing friendships along the way, made lifelong friends, had really cool experiences, that I'd only get in the military. Things like going on a submarine, flying in an airplane, jumping out of airplanes, things like this. I was just like, yeah, that was a really cool adventure that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. And I also, was really inspired by, just being around like such great people and seeing like what they did when they left the military. That was like, yeah, like dream big, go for it.
He is former captain in the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
Gaetano Bettinelli, now
Yeah.
advisor
Now
with
advisor.
Sonoma Wealth
Yeah.
Advisors. You've gotten a little of his story today. You can learn more about him on our website, sonomawealth.com. You can also take our free wealth analysis there. To our clients who've watched the episode, I hope if you work with Gaetano, I hope you got a new flavor, a new
Yeah.
side of
Yeah.
him, learned a little bit more about him. And wherever you found this episode, make sure you subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Thanks so much for checking it out, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks for watching and listening to It's All Money. We hope today's episode shared information to increase your financial confidence. Now is the time in the show for the voiceover with a bunch of words at the end. Listen close, though. You might find out something you didn't know. It's All Money is powered by Sonoma Wealth Advisors. Sonoma Wealth Advisors helps individuals and families in Northern California and across the country with building, managing, and sustaining wealth. Sonoma Wealth is a comprehensive, holistic finance solution, offering financial planning, asset management, tax planning, 401k solutions, and appropriate insurance. Take our free wealth analysis now at sonomawealth.com. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to It's All Money on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's All Money features human hosts, musicians, editors, video crew, and voiceover talent. Video production by Fours Media in Rohnert Park, California. Online at foursmedia.com. Music by Neon Beach, Sparkle Rising on Soundstripe. Voiceover by me, Dano. Thank you for listening to the very end. We appreciate diligent viewers and listeners. Fermata Advisors, LLC is registered as an investment advisor with the SEC and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. This content was produced by Fermata Advisors, LLC, DBA Sonoma Wealth Advisors, DBA Fermata 401k, DBA Fermata Tax. The opinions expressed by Fermata Advisors, LLC on this show are their own. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed.
Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Viewers and listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.